Hello everyone! I'm the Traveling Neurotherapist, and I spend most of my day doing neurofeedback consultation and training with practitioners around the world. One of the things that I find difficult to train in distance is preparation for qEEG and setup. Obviously, that's not so easy to do via Skype, so we're going to do today's video as a tips and tricks for getting the best impedance you can and making sure your setup is as good as you can get it. Okay, so let's start out by talking about some of the supplies that are necessary for qEEG. Now, let me preface this by saying that today's video is going to base itself around the electrocap pre-set up EEG caps. So those come in varying sizes and varying pinouts depending on what amplifier you're using. So obviously you'll need to make sure your cap is appropriate for the amplifier you have. So one of the core things that you need, or that I prefer in setup for those, are the disposable foam discs, okay? So let's see, those look like these bad boys. They are foam discs, they are squishy, and they have a little plastic paper covering here that covers a little bit of an adhesive on one side. These are very important for putting on your FP1 and FP2 sites, and they keep two things in order for you. So the first is that they keep the cap from moving around. When these adhesives are placed here, even if the client is moving and things like that, the cap's never going to slide to one side or slide to the back or anything like that. The other, and for me arguably more important part, is they also keep any gel from dripping down into the eye region. You don't want it in your eyes, and your client certainly doesn't want it in theirs. So these are important to place on the cap and then place in the correct positioning on your client to ensure a good EEG. So there's a few other supplies that are going to be useful in preparing your qEEG. Some of the simple ones are going to be cotton balls, cotton swabs. You can use wooden dowels or gauze. But there are two mediums that I want to talk about today. So those are going to be NuPrep as well as isopropyl alcohol. Both are very common. If you're not familiar what they look like this. NuPrep is it's my favorite. I think that it does the best job. It has a slightly abrasive quality to it as well as cleansing, and so it can help to break down any dirt or oil that are on the skin or scalp. And I think that that is probably my most used tool in the tool chest. That being said, there are a lot of people that swear by isopropyl alcohol. It also can break down oils on the scalp or skin. And it has the added benefit of if you have someone who's perhaps sweating a fair bit, maybe they have a health issue, maybe they're just nervous, or maybe they came and it was hot out, whatever it is, it can be particularly beneficial in stemming the sweat production. Now, that's obviously great in that situation, but I don't always use isopropyl alcohol otherwise because I find that sometimes it can change the way the electrodes pick up the data that you're looking for, and so it's not my first choice if I have NuPrep on hand. So we are talking about our prep now, and what we're looking at is NuPrep. Remember that guy I mentioned? So NuPrep, looking like this again, is very important for preparing any exposed skin area for the best EEG possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to prepare all of this forehead region, including the temples and the earlobe, with a little bit of NuPrep on a cotton ball. So we don't need that much. A little goes a long way with this little green paste. And we're just going to dab in the regions, again, that are exposed by the skin. And we're just going to gently, you don't need a lot of pressing because this is all going to be ever so slightly abrasive built in anyways. And this will get off any sweat or anything else that we are having trouble with, and make sure that our FP1, F7, and F8 are in excellent condition. Now, if you happen to use a lot of NuPrep, go ahead and wipe off excess. All right, so here we can see the back of our cap. That's where this little tag is located, at the back. And if we follow it along the top of the cap here, there's our zenith midline region, and follow it all the way to the front of the cap. So this is our forehead, and these are FP1 and FP2 sites. Those are going to be right above our eyebrows, and we're going to want to put our sponge discs onto those two electrodes. So now in order to do that, we're going to grasp our little sponge disc, and we're going to make sure that the sponge side is in towards the electrode and the paper side is towards the scalp of the client. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we hook the sponge disc onto the edge of the electrode like so. Hook it right there, and we're going to grasp it with our finger. And now when we have that firmly in place, grasp firmly on the edge of the electrode, we are going to remove the paper covering, exposing the adhesive beneath. While we're still holding that in place, our other hand is going to flatten it around the outside of the electrode, keeping it firmly in place. And now, once we put our second one in, we are ready to put those onto our forehead and cap. All right, now when that's done, we're going to take our prepared cap and we're going to do two things. So, we're going to make sure our little dangly bits, those are these guys here, our ear wires are out of our cap so that we have access to them later. And then we are going to get our sponge discs all placed in the perfect position on our mannequin here. Doing such a good job, by the way. So, now I'm a short person, so my trick is usually this. I'm going to ask the client to go ahead and look up at me because I'm going to stand behind them. Perfect. And now what we're going to do is we're going to position these right over the eyebrow and just past the center of the area. Now go ahead and look at the screen for a moment. Perfect. Now, do you see that? The way they are just at the eyebrows. Here, point your face directly at it. Perfect. They are just at the eyebrows. They are right in the center. And, of course, they're not stuck to the eyebrows either. Very important there. And from that placement, we are going to settle the cap down onto the client, just like so. Now, the next step is to confirm that those placements are correct. So we're going to evaluate our client from all angles and make sure that we didn't put it on a little lopsided or that actually we have a bunch of the head exposed. Perfect. Exactly. Thank you. Making sure your cap is fitting right. Very important, and it's what we're going to address next. Bagginess in the cap, not going to work. You can get around it if you must, if someone has an oddly shaped head, or if it's the only size you have, well, you'll just work with it. But if you can avoid it, make sure your cap is fitted well. Okay, guys, so the other thing I'd like to talk about is time. So, as a busy neurofeedback practitioner, time is something to be managed. And it's also one of the most important things when it comes to impedance. It's the easiest way to improve your impedance without you having to really lift a finger. So if you have it, it's always useful to just let your client soak. What that means is you put the gel across their whole head, you get everything situated, and then you just step away. Either give them something to watch or something to read or sit and talk with them, get to know them a little. And with that time, what the gel is going to do is it's going to soak down into the hair more thoroughly, and it's also going to start to do its job, which is breaking down any oils or anything that's on the scalp and making a better and better connection. And so if you have the time, go ahead and use it. Let your client sit, sometimes 5-10 minutes. And you will see your impedances improve significantly without you having to do any poking or prodding. Now, of course, if you don't have that kind of time or your impedances aren't that bad, a little poking and prodding and moving and a little extra gel will speed this process along pretty significantly. The only other situation where leaving it to soak is going to be essential, is going to be if you're working with a client who perhaps is sensitive. Now, that could mean anyone who is sensitive to touch on the scalp or adjustment of your cap. That could be someone on the spectrum, or a very young child, or someone that is just uncomfortable in the whole situation. Maybe they're nervous. Maybe they're very nervous to be there with you. If that's the case, letting them soak, great. You can just sit around, get to know them, make them feel comfortable, let them hang out with maybe their parent that they have there with them, and your impedances will improve by themselves, hopefully to an adequate level, and you can just jump right into your recording. Injecting gel into your cap, into your electrodes. This seems like it should be pretty straightforward, but a lot of people have a hard time with it, so let's go in depth. Halt! Always hold your electrode. Now that we have our electrode firmly in hand, we are going to lift both the electrode and the syringe slightly away from the scalp. You can see me lifting it there. It's a tiny amount. That's going to give us a little bit of room so that when we inject gel into our cup, it is going to push out the excess air from the bottom. And then as we settle the electrode down onto the scalp with a little twist, it will encourage all the extra air out. We wipe, and that's it. All right, so here we have another angle, and we're going to go ahead and once again get a firm grip of our electrode, make sure we've got it in hand, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lift our electrode and our syringe away from the scalp. Notice no pressure is being put on the syringe. And the amount of gel you can see here is infinitesimal. It is a very tiny amount of gel that's going to be injected. And then again, both are going to be settled back down onto the scalp with a twist and a wipe. And that is it. So let's see how much gel this really takes. My finger is there, and I'm only going to put about a pea's worth on here. It's a little dollop, not much more. You don't want too much gel because it makes both a mess and increases your likelihood for a salt bridge, which we do not want. Salt bridges are risky when you have someone with no hair or thin hair, so avoid at all costs. Next, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our ear electrode. Same amount of gel is going to go into this, maybe a pea's worth. And you are going to make sure to prep your ear before you apply this. I prefer New Prep, the green paste that we showed in the beginning of the video, but you can use alcohol wipes instead. Prep the ear, and then you're going to place the electrode like so over the earlobe, making sure to avoid any holes and piercings or deformities in the ear to avoid air. So let's talk about the 3 core tenets of improving your impedance with movement. And what I'm talking about is the twist, the tap, and the circle. So we start by grabbing our electrode firmly in hand, and we are going to twist our electrode. This is going to allow any air that is still in the electrode to rise to the surface and escape. And now this is important. When you grab your electrode from every point on, you are doing that to keep it to the scalp. Never lift the electrode from this point on. That would introduce air into the system, and that is not your friend. Air is not our friend. Here we grab, and with either a syringe or a dowel, we are going to press ever so gently down onto the scalp. This pressing motion should not be uncomfortable for the client. It is not a thump, it is a tap. It is meant to push gel into the hair and distribute it accurately throughout the electrode. Here you can see it from another angle. We are pressing ever so gently, no real effort there, just allowing it to distribute the gel more consistently through the electrode. You can do it at different angles, just make sure you're holding onto your electrode the whole time. So we grab our electrode again, and with our syringe or dowel, we are going to draw a large diameter circle inside of our electrode. The larger the diameter, the less uncomfortable it is on the client, and the more ground you cover. The point of this is to break up any oils or residue that are on the scalp, thus allowing the gel to settle better and make a better connection. This next part is for anyone who is still having trouble, for the difficult clients, the difficult sites. The medium that I started this video talking about, new prep, I have a little there on my finger, just a little dollop, you don't need much. So now I'm going to take my syringe or my dowel and I'm going to put a little bit of new prep on, and then I'm going to combine this with our last practice there, the circle. So we're going to make a nice large diameter circle, and hopefully that new prep will further help to break down any oils or residue that is still left on the scalp and causing problems with your connection. Oh, okay guys, I know that was a lot, but you made it through. Good job. Hopefully that had something in it for everyone. Whether you picked up a trick or this is your first time capping and now you feel brave enough to give it a shot. If you have questions, if we didn't get to something, leave a comment below. If you would like to talk one-on-one and figure things out, head over to our website and contact us there. And if you want to see more videos like this, then like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.